And my questions are based on your favorite discussion, that is on land titles. And Alberta has been attracting people from across the country and world who want to take part in the Alberta Advantage and the endless opportunities Alberta has to offer. Due to this influx, the real estate industry has been front and center, making sure people can find the homes they want. Due to this population growth and other economic factors, the past few years have been significant backlog for processing land titles, which caused massive frustrations for many constituents of Calgary East and individuals and also businesses in our province. And recently, the government announced that it has eliminated the land titles backlog and is moving forward to modernize the land title system. And that is the great news, Minister. Turning to page 129 of the business plan, performance metric 1.8 measures year-end registration turnaround time for land titles and surveys in business days. And I'm pleased to see that in 2023-2024, system improvements brought resolution to the land titles backlog, returning timelines to the target of 10 to 12 business days for the first time in 2 years, and this is incredible improvement from the peak turnaround times of 84 business days in December 2022. And what changes did your ministry implement to be able to achieve this? And what are some of the short and long-term solutions your ministry has implemented or is considering implementing to ensure another backlog does not arise? And what changes does your ministry have planned to transform this paper-focused system to be more modernized system? Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Minister.
Thank you, MLA Singh, and I appreciate the question. You'll have to forgive myself and my staff. Sometimes when we hear the word land titles, I think we still sometimes twitch because it was well, let's just say it was a laser-like focus on fixing land titles. That laser-like focus came from the Premier, went to myself, went to my team, and yeah, there wasn't a conversation that we had that didn't either begin or end with land titles, because it was all about protecting that $50 billion worth of investment. And we knew it wasn't as simple as just hiring, because we had done that previously. We had done a mass hire, we brought in a bunch of people, and the backlog got worse. So we needed to do something different. And this was at a time, I mean, we knew that part of the solution would be hiring more, but that wasn't the only solution. But it was also in a time when it was difficult to hire, because and so we and I'll give a shout out to the human resources recruitment folks who I guess someone must have explored speed dating at some point in their career, because they brought that concept of speed dating to recruitment, and we had literally these speed dating stations that were set up, and they would go from one table to the next, and so we were able to recruit people in a very short period of time. We took a recruitment process that could take several weeks, and we brought it down and shortened it substantially. And we brought on, I believe it was 51 people in a very short period of time. We had to train them, and it was 18 months to train. Well, when you've already got a 4.5 month backlog and your training program is 18 months, you've got a problem. So we shortened the training down to 3 months. And then what we did is we took the new people and we put them on the simpler land titles, and we saved the more complex ones for the more senior, experienced personnel. And so by being strategic that way, and as I mentioned earlier, the focus on lean processing, we went and we examined every process associated with land titles. We talked to frontline employees. A story that the Premier tells, I've heard the Premier tell this story several times, so I'm going to repeat it here. But the Premier called me, as she often will. And I forget it was Boxing Day or the day after Boxing Day, but it was that day between Christmas and New Year's when government just literally is shut down. And you can't actually, it's hard to get overtime in that period. And so she called me on, and like I said, I forget if it was Boxing Day or the day after, and she called me, she said, "Minister, what are you doing?" And I laughed. I said, "Well, you're not going to believe this, but I literally just left land titles." And she laughed. She's like, what are you doing there now?" And we had a team that was working. The team had embraced what we needed to get done, and they had committed to working over that time period. And so they don't need me to come in and help them, because there isn't anything that I can do of any value in the land titles office. But there's one thing I can do, and I can bring them lunch. And so that's what I did. I wanted to acknowledge the hard work of the frontline employees that were working during this time. And so the Premier would tell that story several times and laugh. But that was the kind of laser-like focus that we had on land titles, is the fact that we had folks working over Christmas. The fact that I was bringing them lunch because it was the only thing I could do, because I can't process a land title. And so we brought in those process improvements. I mentioned that we talked to the frontline employees. We looked at what steps could be eliminated. We even regretted. I mean, we did this, and we didn't like the fact that we had to do it, but it was necessary. We even closed the front counter, because what's the point of having a front counter if you're 4.5 months behind? So we took those staff on the front counter, and we had them processing land titles. Anybody that could process a land title was being pressed into action, and then of course. Discovering that 30% of the paperwork was inaccurate or incomplete for lawyers. It certainly was shocking to all of us to hear that, and so we had a meeting with the Law Society, and we said, look, this is terrible, and we either need the Law Society to fix this, or we'll fix it. And I gave them the choice, and I'll give a shout out to the Law Society, is they opted to correct it, and so they reached out to all the lawyers and made it very clear what the expectation is for paperwork that is submitted on their behalf to government, and we took the 30% of paperwork that was incomplete or inaccurate, and that dropped down to 5. We know we're not going to hit 100%. We'd like to get better than 5, but that's a whole ton better than the 30 that it was at. So we were very happy to see that. So thank you. And the last piece of your question referred to what are we going to do to make sure it doesn't happen again? We're going to automate. We are going to bring automation to land titles. Other jurisdictions have done it. We're doing it now. We're making an investment of $60 million. We're going to bring forward incremental improvements that will basically put us in a position that the next time we see the land titles volumes double, we're going to be able to respond. And because that's something that we didn't have the capacity to do, but we will in the very near future. And I'm proud to say that it's a huge undertaking to do this, but it will be completed by spring of 2026. We'll have full automation at land titles.